Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with Season 8, Episode 45 of our weekly Q&A videos. You are hearing this a week later. We are hearing this, 5 minutes later.
From the last episode,
so we finished the last episode. We were sort of doing our clicking around the sort of back-end work of getting the audio file ready to be saved, right? To sort of shove it into the vault until it needs to be posted. And we realized we didn't really answer the last question properly. So we'll read it again for anybody who doesn't remember a week ago. Yeah. And I guess not for anybody who watches these back to back. But I don't know what that type of person looks like, and I'm not sure if they exist. So we're going to jump straight into it. Yeah. Shawn RB Perfect Pattern said, "You two should do Discord so I can ask the same questions that you answered a million times." And we ended up going off on a huge tangent and then doing a movie review. Yeah. But you had some more thoughts.
I did. So here's the thing. I feel like the implied part of this question. So you two should do Discord so I can ask some same questions that you answered a million times. Is that when you've got a repository of knowledge, you've got a reference sort of resource that it no longer requires any kind of interaction. And I think we consciously made a decision in the way we do these things with the Q&As, for example, where the first one that we did these many years ago was when we got our first, I think it was maybe 1,000 subscribers or something. Yeah. Or maybe, and there's some significant...
There's a milestone.
Some base 10 milestone that's only significant because we live in a world where everything is base 10. Yeah. And that the conscious decision that we made when we did these videos was that we would do as much as we would as long as it was fun, because it's not a career. Yeah. We don't make a lot of money on it. And typing stuff out, I'm a better sort of written word learner than I am auditory. Yeah. So as a repository of knowledge, as a resource, yeah, it makes a lot more sense if we type stuff out. But it would have been a lot more work. It is not work that we would have done. And if somebody else wants to do it, that's great. I think somebody else has done it by doing the Justice Wiki. Yeah. So I think this is our way of maybe sort of having a conversation and a dialogue, but almost a one-sided one. But we're still responding to some of the questions and comments. And I think there's a lot of information that if you just follow us for a while, that you just pick up, not by osmosis, but just because it's something that we've talked about.
Yeah, and I think that there is an advantage of doing Discord in that it's not sort of asynchronous, because how it works right now is that people ask us comments, and then we just sort of reply and then talk for as long as you want, and then get off as off topic as we want, right? And so I think there is something that would be kind of cool about being able to have that one-to-one direct fan interaction. But fan is a big word, right? Community member, I guess I would say, because I'm not sure how big a fan any individual person is of us.
It's true.
That might be a little bit presumptuous. But
fan is a strong word.
But Discord is not my preferred method of getting that interaction with anybody, even just friends. So it would be hard. If I had to pick a way of bringing somebody in on this, I would almost rather have set up a guest star, to come in, on these episodes, somebody to come in and just chat with us.
That would be kind of cool.
We'd have to make it the highest Patreon level.
That would be really difficult. It would just be so much work, because
huge amount of logistic work.
Yeah, when it was that year that you were away at school, was difficult. We found a way around it. We were still able to use the videos, but it was actually, and we were both committed to it, right? Yeah. So when you have people, that would be a bit of a nightmare. I mean, Discord is hard enough. Discord is definitely not my choice of social platforms. Yeah. I really participate in only one Discord. It's invitation only. And I just have no urge, and I have trouble keeping up with it. There's a couple of, what do they call them, little sections on the Discord? What are those called?
I don't know I don't think they're called threads. They're Channels, the channels.
At most, I can follow maybe half the channels, and the other half I just completely ignore, because once I've lost the thread of it, it's impossible to keep on going back enough to actually pick up on where the conversation started.
Yeah, we talked about this at length. Neither of our minds are finely tuned for Discord.
Yeah.
This is a fun question. I'm sure the answer is nobody and not very much money. But if you're here right now,
this is Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Hello, Alex. What is?
If you're here right now, if we were to ever do guesting on an episode as a Patreon reward, what would it be worth to you personally? And this is not you signing up for it if we ever do it. We're not gonna come back and say, well, you said you would. You had to pay
it's
for
not
it.
an auction. Yeah.
But if you would be interested in that, let us know in the comments and tell us what you think a fair price would be. And I'm like 99% sure we would never do this. And if we did, I don't think I'd want to auction it off like this anyways. I think we just have to figure out what it would
It's more important, I think, it's less important the value, and it's more important that the person that's participating has something interesting to say.
Yeah, Eliza, the person I give shoutouts to at the end of the video, has expressed interest in being guesting on this, and I've never... It's hard for me to imagine an episode where we just hang out and talk about stuff. I mean, I'm sure she'd be entertaining and worth listening to in some format. I just have no clue if this is the space for that.
I'd be willing to give it a shot.
You know what? Me too. I'd be willing to.
If you of all the different social platforms, the only one that I probably immerse myself in is Twitter. Yeah, and it's funny because I have this impression because so I'm at danger of doxing myself, but I think there's so many people that would fall into this category. Is that I follow maybe a couple hundred people. Yeah, I am followed by people in low double digits.
Yeah, you got less than 100 followers.
Oh, way less, yeah. Yeah. And so the interesting thing to me isn't that. It's that if I were to express some politically unpopular opinion on Twitter, what I've seen a lot of sort of comebacks are, well, you're just a bot. Yeah. Characterizing accounts that have the small number of followers that I have for whatever time period of the account is, right? Yeah. And what's interesting to me is...
Like, this looks like suspicious activity. A real person...
This looks like a bot.
Yeah.
Yeah, real
person wouldn't be like this.
Real person would have more followers. Yeah. But the interesting to me, and it didn't occur to me until you were taking a look at my account, is that I have 2 followers out of that really small number who have check marks.
Yeah, they're verified.
They're verified. So they're not only confirmed to be who they are, but they're people of some renown that there's value in verifying them.
It's interesting because the dynamics of verification are weird, right? Because it was meant for one thing, right? Which is to be able to say this is the real person. Right. This is not somebody impersonating them. Right. Which makes sense to me. But what they've become is a really interesting blend of that, but then also status symbol. Yes. Right? Because 100%. To be at that point, there sort of needs to be the implication that somebody might want to impersonate you. Right. That it's important to be able to verify you as who you are. That it matters. That it matters. Yeah. That like, oh, when the name associated next to this, it's supposed to matter that this person is who they say they are. Right? And that there's some weight behind the name. And so, one thing that I know that makes it really easy to get a verified checkmark is if you're a reporter. Reporters can get verified checkmarks at very low, engagement number of followers. I know somebody peripherally who's a reporter for the Toronto Star. And I don't know if she has a really low number of followers. I don't know. It's probably, she probably has a couple thousand. So,
that's a lot compared to me.
A lot compared to you, right? But she has a number that her engagement on stuff like that very well might be less than what we have on YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. But she's verified because she's a reporter.
And it makes sense. That matters, right? Because if people are reporting information, it makes sense that there's some sort of... what's the word I'm looking for? Something for the source to legitimize... Credibility, right. So the source has some credibility, and that checkmark gives it to them.
But outside of that, it is a little bit of status symbol, like, oh, I'm popular. And so what's interesting is that, like, I, subconsciously buy into that. When I see somebody who's verified on a platform, I'm like, okay, well, this is somebody that the platform has put some, like, nominal amount of effort into officially acknowledging, right? They've had to have been vetted to some point.
Right.
One of the funniest things I think anybody's ever done with a verified status, I've told you about this before, is Jabuki. He was a Twitter guy. He's a comedian, I think. And he would change his profile picture to the actual profile picture of another verified account and then change his name, not his @ right?
Right.
So I think he...
And if the name's long enough, you don't even see the @ when you're looking at their tweet.
And then he would pretend to tweet as them. There's different ones that are different levels of appropriate or inappropriate, but there's one where he did the FBI, like, official FBI account.
Yeah.
And then, because they had said something on, like, the anniversary of, like, Martin Luther King Jr.'s death or something like that. Right, or something. And so he tweeted, just because we killed him, MLK doesn't mean we can't miss him too. Like a frowny face or something like that. And so I think he lost his verified checkmark because he did that one too many times. Like pretending to be like Trump and other stuff.
That's what I call good performance art.
Oh, that's great. There's something really special about getting officially acknowledged by a platform and then using it to do the exact opposite of what the checkmark is supposed to be for, and then like sort of actively antagonize the platform. But yeah, no, so it's interesting because, you're followed by verified people, but like on a certain level, what does that mean?
I don't know. I have no idea what it means, but it strikes me though that it's funny to me. It does feel cool because, I mean, back in the Stone Age, there would be no way to, and I will say that neither of my verified followers are reporters. There'd be no way to really interact with you. I remember back in the day with books, for example. I wouldn't even know when a writer was coming out with a new book. There was no way until, I guess, the book happened to show up at the library. Now, not only do you know what the publishing history is like, you know when their next book is coming, or when their next book is submitted, and they're waiting for the line edits and the art for the book and all that stuff and the timeline for when it's going to be released, and you're going to be able to interact with the writer, you're going to be able to talk to them, all this stuff. Like, it's amazing. All kinds of artists, writers, musicians, actors, everybody. It's ridiculous.
This is a fun shout out. Bug Hunter. Love the guy, love his work. He is a really talented musician and just a really cool dude. One of the only times I ever have actually used Discord for any significant length of time was the Bug Hunter Discord. And then there's like a second Discord of like people from the Bug Hunter Discord that I got invited to, that I'm in, that I also use off and on. So like he, because of him directly and indirectly, there's a huge amount of my Discord usage. You should check him out, by the way. Dear McCracken is probably the easiest entry point. But he's the kind of guy, like I listen to him, he'll come on Shuffle and I go on a walk and he'll, like I've been to like his concerts and stuff before. But the ridiculous thing is that like I've had consistent interaction with him for a while now, and we just hang out sometimes and talk. I've played, board games with the guy, and it is just shocking to me that we have this access to each other. And I think I talked about that a little bit the other time that I plugged Bug Hunter, but it's just really shocking to me that I could, regardless of how famous the person is, right, that I can be a fan of somebody's stuff, and then just like talk to them and just have a conversation, and we don't have, I think, as strong power imbalance as that when we interact with each other now, of me, sort of coming in starstruck, but every once in a while I still get this feeling like, oh my god, wow, that's weird. Because I'll have talked with him, or I'll like get a message from him, and then like an hour later, like I'm playing music and like his stuff comes on Shuffle. I'm like, wow, okay.
I feel exactly like that when it comes to conventions. and getting to meet some of these brilliant creative minds behind things, and having a chance to just, even sit in on a conversation, which is what panels are like, but then sit in a conversation at the noodle place across the street from the hotel, where, see, this is, all right, so this ties back into the last week's episode, which was our 10 minutes ago episode for us, and how you were talking about going to the East Coast, and the World Fantasy Convention is coming November to Canada in Montreal. I still have plans to attend, but it's not looking good. Like the way the whole pandemic right now is going, 2 months ago, before the Delta variant really started dominating the sort of pandemic landscape, I was thinking, by November we'll be fine. And it's looking like now, at least say with the United States, that they're talking about putting restrictions on that are planned for until January 2022. And so it's having
bad out there.
Yeah, it's pretty bad out there. So this is one of the other things that we'd done with our Patreon that we hadn't really publicized as much, but it's sort of weighing our mind a little bit, because we have to sort of consider our patrons a little bit while we're sort of working around your hiatus, right?
Yeah.
And that we've kept, if you've been one of our patrons, even when you've had to bow out during the pandemic, we've just kept the credits in, because we recognize that these are sort of incredibly weird circumstances.
Yeah.
And we still appreciate that you've given us any support in
at
the middle
time.
of this, in the middle of this kind of hugely, it's not individually catastrophic, but it's just such a
tumultuous.
That's a good word. Tumultuous, calamitous time.
Yeah.
And so we've done that, and our idea was that we would stop it when the pandemic was over.
And now, what does that even mean?
Yeah, exactly. What does that even mean? It feels like it should have been over. And I came close to thinking, now is a good time, when I was thinking, I'm going to be in Montreal in November, and now it's maybe not necessarily so sure.
And at this point, it's been so long that I'm sure many of the people who have stopped supporting us have had the opportunity to potentially stop watching our videos too.
Right.
I'm sure there are people who stopped supporting us because they couldn't anymore financially, and I'm sure there are people who just,
got tired of us?
Yeah, come in and out as patrons do.
Yeah.
And, I don't begrudge anybody for not continuing to like us. I'm thankful for people who like us in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? And the status of that changing to me feels, about right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that people's content who I used to like and don't follow anymore, right? And I think, I don't think anybody owes us anything.
Yeah, but it's funny what you come back to, because we used to watch Good Mythical Morning pretty consistently, and we fell away from that.
Yeah.
And now, your mom is listening to Ear Biscuits.
Yeah, Rhett and Link's podcast.
And I've listened to a couple of the episodes, and I think, wow, this is really kind of cool, and I'm coming back to it in a different way, because the really interesting ones are where they talk about their faith and religion and what it's meant to them and how they got to where they are, and why the cliche about the degenerates in California doesn't really apply, and why it bugs them a little bit when people assume that that's why they are no longer the evangelical Christians that they used to be.
There's some really fascinating people.
Yes.
I've always found them to be, lighthearted, good fun. And they're the kind of people that when I see you, one thing that they have that's really interesting that I've seen a couple other places is they have a good mythical comb, which is a musical comb that when you run your finger up and down it, it plays their theme song.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and they do that by adjusting the length of the tines,
right?
For pitch, and then the number of tines back to back for the length of the note.
Right.
And so
does the thickness make a difference? Is it just
maybe,
the length,
but I think they're all the same thickness.
Okay.
But so you run your finger down and it goes boo 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 or whatever, right?
Right.
But yeah, no. So if there's anybody that we could stand to be a little bit more like, it's probably them, and then maybe the McElroy brothers, right? In terms of the type of stuff
you're
that we're
aiming
making,
high.
sitting around.
Like when you aim, you're aiming like sky high.
Well, we're never going to be nearly as good. That's another reason why I don't feel bad if people stop watching us, is because I look at the types of people that I spend my time listening to,
right.
And then I look at us and I go, wow, anybody who's making the choice to listen to us instead of the other million things that are out there, I feel pretty good about that.
Huge opportunity cost, right? Like even if it's free on YouTube, the fact that they're spending their time on I'm so totally aware of how little time there is. If they spend their time on us, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, so that's not to say you should stop listening to us right now, but that is to say that if you are, thank you.
Yeah, because we do have injustice questions coming up.
Yeah, we haven't answered a lot of questions. I was going to do an anecdote, but maybe we even just don't. So anyways, our first fresh question of this week comes from Evan Pratt, and they say, love you guys, you are awesome and appreciated. I haven't had a whole lot of questions because they are never original and you have so much content already, but I have a couple questions. First two are just about getting stuff. You always recommend maxing crit augmentations. Is there a better way than grinding Survivor and having your fingers crossed that in the Joker ticket thing? So do you want to answer part by part?
Yeah, sure, because there's a bunch of parts.
Yeah.
There isn't. That's the problem. That's why I think using the airplane mode / refund glitch is probably the most useful thing. The cool thing is, I mean, when you're starting to play, like early game, because it's easier to get, you're pushing for the chase gear in the gear set. So when I say chase, I mean the one that's the rarest and it's actually the best. So League of Assassins Knives is the most rare one, and it's the best one.
Yeah.
Fourth World Godly Mace, also the best one and the rarest one.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Suicide Squad, they're all about as common.
Yeah.
And the LexCorp, I want to say the gauntlets. I can't remember, but the gauntlets are the ones that are the most useful if you're going to do a real sort of one-hit KO, splash damage everybody else, specials like Luchador Bane or Batgirl.
But so the point is, you're going to be spending a lot of tickets. There's a lot of stuff that you actually want from Survivor.
So that's why you save up your tickets. When you want all of them. So early game, you're going to want those. So you'd be tempted to try to just get that and reset it if you get that. But remember, keep in mind that the crit augmentations are longer term the most valuable things. So if you
some of the gear I think still might be better just because you can use it on all your team instead of just one character for each thing.
See, the best ones are the multiplayer ones. I mean, League of Assassins Knives isn't. I don't think it's that necessary anymore. I don't think there's anything that will. It'll make it more fun for sure when you can splash everybody and then everybody comes in with 1 health. But I think if you're gonna like. The problem is with the crit augmentations, it takes so many, and it's only on one character, so you have to decide already who you want it on. So you're going to want the augmentations no matter what. The temptation is early on to just go for the gear, but as long as you don't fall into that trap, and you're accumulating crit augmentations and maybe saving them as you play more, and you get a better feel for who you like and who you want to play with, that's probably going to be the most important thing.
Yeah. So there we go. The sort of direct answer to the question is, you just have to have your fingers crossed, and what you're looking for, you're always going to want those no matter what, but this is probably a time where you have to sort of make a list of what you want from Survivor, and then figure out, if you're willing to do the reset glitch, right? To reroll your rewards, how much of what you want you need to get before you keep it and don't reset.
And the more you want, the easier it is, right? So as long as, say, in the 5 tickets, you get at least 1 crit augmentation, I think it's worth keeping.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky, you might get a gear that you want to. And if it doesn't, you reset it. 5 last lap tickets would be a really good run on Survivor.
Yeah. Maybe if you want to focus more on playing and less on resetting, you could do 10. Yeah. If you're banking them.
Yeah, I think you have to get at least 1 crit augmentation, and if you're gonna be really strict and make sure you get the most value, get at least 1. Actually, get at least 1 legendary gear that you need, or 1 crit augmentation, and if you want to be really stingy with it, maybe 2, because some of them are going to be minor, right?
Yeah. So there we go. So going back to the actual question itself, the second is trying to get the Dawn of Justice stuff. Is there any packs for power credits that have Dawn of Justice Batman and or the Lasso of Truth gear?
Not for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they will have anything coming up, but it hasn't been for years. It used to be Dawn of Justice Gold Pack, where it was like the regular Gold Pack. It was maybe a little bit more. I think it was 125,000 credits instead of 100,000 credits. And you had a chance at all 3 Dawn of Justice characters, or maybe it was only Dawn of Justice Batman, but I remember that was at one point that was the only way you could get Dawn of Justice Batman. And potentially the gear that you got from it was the special, or no, there was a special gear pack that was the Dawn of Justice gear. So you could get the 3. There's one for Wonder Woman, which was a lasso. There's Clark Kent's glasses, and then there was Batman's cowl, which is his like 3rd or 4th signature gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go.
So short answer is no.
Yeah. And then moving back to the question again. My last question has been danced around lots before. For a Red Sun team, I understand best in theory is Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, and Batman. Green Lantern is a tank, Wonder Woman is a special specialist, and I think Batman should be a secondary special specialist but how would they be geared? I'm thinking basically copying your Luchador Bane and Batgirl team, where in this case, Wonder Woman has Tantu, Adapt Knives, and Cloak, but she doesn't have anything stunned, so I think it should be changed. Batman would have potentially Master's Deathcart, Claw of Horus, and Necron Scythe. Thoughts? And then, sorry for the long comment, you guys are great. So first off, don't apologize for the long comment.
Yeah.
It was good. We always appreciate questions, we appreciate comments. I think we've been talking about that a little more recently. We appreciate you guys, so don't worry. You never have to apologize, but we appreciate all the kind words.
Yeah.
You're very nice about this, and it's always nice to hear. It's one of those things, that always makes us feel a little good.
So maybe if we get the easy part out of the way, the easy part is the main benefit of a Red Sun team is defensive, if you're talking Red Sun Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Eliminating not only stun, which means you're taking away the power of Cloak and Necron Scythe, but you're removing crit damage, which is removing the power of the Flashpoint team. You all of a sudden have a team that's way hardier and tougher against any team you're going to face. Mm-hmm. So that's the main benefit. The problem is, so what do you do with the team? And I think the temptation is to use a character on the Red Sun team based on the group passive that they contribute, and that may not necessarily be the right thing. Mm-hmm. That, I guess that's one principle. But the other principle I want to mention is, because I know I'm going to forget it, is that I sort of half forgot it already. Is that I'm totally drawing a blank.
I wish I knew where you were going.
So let me start by talking about that first point, though. So Green Lantern's passive is defensive, so temptation to use him as a tank. However, he's got a really good rhythm to his swipe combo, so it wouldn't be awful to use him as a basic damage dealer.
Yeah.
The same, I mean, Batman too, right? Batman's a pretty good basic damage dealer, so it's because of the rhythm of his swipes, but because his passive lets you get unblockable special ones, that you want to make him a special specialist. But everybody gets the chance at unblockable special ones, right?
Yeah.
I think. So, the point I was going to make was that the amount of damage you get from a special one is often more than doubled by the amount of damage you can get to special 2. So if you're going to have a special specialist, unless there's a really good reason, like with Batgirl, who stuns at the beginning of her special 2 is better than special 1.
Yeah, especially if you have Tantu Totem.
And Master's Deathcard.
Yeah.
If anything, I'd rather stack them both on one character. Mm-hmm. And the question then becomes, who do you put it on? So Wonder Woman's passive is boosting power, so the temptation is to use her as special specialist. And she's good because you can chain her special 1 to a swipe heavy combo, right? So you swipe while they're in the air falling back, you do special 1, it can land unblocked.
Yeah.
Which is great. Except, like we're saying, maybe you don't want to be focusing on special 1s because you can get more than double the damage doing a special 2 if you could just give her 2 bars when she tags in.
Yeah.
So when you've got a really good special specialist, I think it's never bad to have one tank. Mm-hmm. Only because whenever you need to swap your special specialist out to recharge them because you didn't knock the opponent out. You want them to survive.
Yeah. So that's sort of the overarching principles in terms of like how you should gear them. Really, I mean, Tantu Totem and Master Death Card is on anybody who you want to be your primary specialist. Yeah. And then the third gear is based off of specifically how you're going to be using them, I think. You have a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah.
You know, you can just copy and paste gears from different teams. But I think part of the problem is that it's very easy to say that this is the best way to gear them too. But I know that we play differently than other people do, so it's hard to give gear recommendations for a specific person because it does matter a lot how you play. And if you've put the time and effort into getting your gears up, there's a good chance that you have a better sense of how you play and what works for you than we do. And a lot of times if we are too, distanced from it, when we say, the information that we can give you is the gear that we would play them with, right? And why we think it's probably the best for us. But a lot of times we don't know, and we can be a little bit stuck in our own playstyles, but also in our own ruts of what we're used to putting on gear.
For sure.
And so we aren't necessarily going to give you the best gear advice either. So most of the time, the only way that you can figure out what the best gear is for a team is to play with the gear, and then swap out all the gear that you're not sure of, and see what feels the best to you. And so we've fallen into our patterns, right? Where we don't need to do that anymore.
Right.
And the reason we don't is because we know in the situation, or we think we know in the situation, what that answer is going to be once we start playing around with it. But we actually, because we don't do that testing anymore, it's entirely possible that we're wrong sometimes, actually.
And some of it, too, is even when we started doing something, we've changed. Like, with Flashpoint Batman now, we switched to a team for our Phantom Zone, where he will, instead of having Wonder Woman steal health using LexCorp Chestplate, I think, which is stealing a special 2, we're stealing it with his basic damage and his combo ender. And it's faster. Like, once we started doing that, the Phantom Zone, we were doing, like, we've done sub 10-minute Phantom Zone Crystal. So, and I'm going to offer one unorthodox thought, which is not what you asked, but what I think might actually do more. So, the idea of Wonder Woman, Red Sun Wonder Woman, is she gives power to all the Red Sun teammates, and she gets the benefit of the passives. However, here's a thought. New 52 Wonder Woman instead. If you make her your specialist, she's got enough power to knock out a lot of people to start when she tags in first. Now, she's vulnerable, but here's the thing. Her other two teammates won't be because they'll both be Red Sun and get the benefit of Green Lantern. You lose Red Sun Wonder Woman's power gen increase, but you gain New 52 Wonder Woman's power gen sort of sharing return to her teammates, and the benefit that you can get from doing a couple special 2s with her is probably as much as you would get in a fight, unless it ends up being a really long, drawn-out fight of the boosted power gen that Red Sun Wonder Woman would give you.
Okay.
And so you could actually have an even better overall team, because now everybody's doing specials, and you could generate a huge amount of power. And what you give up is that you make your specialist Wonder Woman a little bit more vulnerable, and you don't have to worry about getting an unblocked special anyways, because when you tag in the first one, as long as they don't have a power dampener, you're getting a special 2 unblocked because of Master's Death Card when you tag in.
So there we go. That is interesting. The one sort of disadvantage of that potentially is that Red Sun Wonder Woman, you're only going to be using on a Red Sun team, whereas if you're in your team suggestion, right?
New 52 Wonder Woman works everywhere.
Yeah, almost everywhere. So that only works if A, you have New 52 Wonder Woman, and B, you're not already using her regularly on a team. I guess that only matters if you're actually using her enough that you're using all the energy on one team and then swapping to another team. So if your other active team doesn't have New 52 Wonder Woman and you have her in your roster, then there's not really a cost, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, not as many questions as I thought we were going to answer this week either.
So maybe we have a chance of making sure that people don't miss you as much when you're on your road trip.
It'll be like I never left. Yeah, so we can probably start to wrap up now. So first off, I'd like to give a shout out to Eliza Watch the Movie Blade Caton. She wants me to watch the movie Blade. This shout out was brought to you by the first theatrically released black-led superhero movie.
Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, so apparently she didn't think Blade was that great.
Yeah.
You know, it was a mix, right? Like, it was a little cheesy, it was sort of whatever, but that she thought it was underappreciated in that for all of what it was weird and maybe didn't age the best and wasn't, you know, the pinnacle of cinema. That she thought it did enough stuff that was kind of unexpected to make it worth a watch and kind of cool.
And it's pretty timely because now we're going to be celebrating the first theatrically released Asian lead superhero movie.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi, the Master of Kung Fu.
With our own Simu Liu from Kim's Convenience.
Yeah.
That good old Canadian boy. Yeah, love to see it. So yeah, and we also would like to give a huge thank you to all the lovely folks who support us on Patreon.
And that would be Victor Gomez, Consul Peasant, and Edwoon, who are supporting us at the highest tier, Last Word, Sinemac and Mohammed Albshaiti at the Your Message Here tier, Shawn, Farrell, Daniel Simonson, Aaron Maule, Michael DeVries, Brandon C., Irvin Ruiz, and Eddydoo at the credited level, and Chris Wolf, Scarlett Danny, Awesome Gamer 2 for 1, Pavu RS, Gavin Malott, and Isra E at the gratitude level.
There we go.
And I do want to say, I really should just put that in our notes so I don't have just two in a row where I get the ands in the right places when I'm talking about our patrons.
Yeah. There we go. Thank you so much for your support, and thanks so much to all of you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.